Tax experts are calling on Canadian officials to crack down on what they call ghost immigrants, foreigners who buy homes in Canada and use the properties to convince authorities that they live here, which helps them to then qualify for citizenship. Joining us from Windsor, Ontario, is tax and immigration specialist David Lesperance. Good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, Emery.
David, explain to us how this works and how taxes are avoided being paid.
Sure, I put a greater amount of detail in McLean's op-ed, but basically Canada brings in immigrants, then asks them to be physically present in Canada for certain periods of time in order to maintain that immigration status and then to qualify for citizenship after a 3-year naturalization period. The problem is that Canada, while it's a nice sentiment that they be physically present, has absolutely no way of enforcing this. I was, in 1991, presented a scoundrel's guide to circumventing the Immigration and Citizenship Act in showing how to defraud this system. And these same techniques are being used today. So what we have are a number of people who are coming to Canada, faking the physical presence, but on top of that, they're paying little to no tax. The Canadian immigration people aren't really looking at them, nor do they have the resources, and Revenue Canada has not focused on them. They are liable for Canadian worldwide taxation, but as a recent case I highlight in the op-ed, we had a gentleman who was worth hundreds of millions of dollars who actually declared only $96 on his Canadian worldwide tax return.
Which I also understand then entitled them to welfare benefits as well.
That was really pushing the edge. The interesting part of this particular case was they were not uncovered by Revenue Canada or immigration. These were two parties who had been engaging in fraud for over 10 years who fell out and decided to sue themselves or sue each other in civil court. And it was actually the judge who was so appalled at their behavior that she did a 600-page decision which finally highlighted their actions.
So, David, that's one case, but how widespread is this problem?
Well, it's widespread enough for anybody who's in neighborhoods in Vancouver and in Toronto and now increasingly in Montreal and other cities where they have neighbors who are not really there. So the problem with that is that while they are getting the benefits of Canadian permanent residence and citizenship, they are, like this gentleman, not contributing to the tax base. They're driving up house prices. They are denuding neighborhoods of vibrancy and customers for local restaurants and businesses, and they're not contributing to the tax base.
Why do you feel that Canada is a target for this?
Well, because Canada has hung on to the very nice but completely unenforceable idea that you need to be physically present in Canada. If they were to actually try to enforce that, it would inconvenience all kinds of Canadians. And they would move from the people who were on what I call the silly or dumb end into the more sophisticated. I'm not that smart. I figured out 25 years ago how to circumvent this. The same tricks are being used today, and I'm sure more sophisticated tricks are being used today. So why continue to do something which isn't working? It's madness.
From which countries do we see the most, what you describe as ghost immigrants?
Well, over the period of time that it has changed, and it really reflects where we get immigrants from. When in 1990, we didn't have a lot of clients from China, that we had a lot of clients that were based in the Gulf who were coming and engaging in this type of behavior. We had clients from Hong Kong, of course, who prior to that were getting ready for the 1997 handover. We see a lot of clients from China right now doing this because they're one of our largest communities. So naturally, they are the largest group that are doing this. But it's not endemic to one particular group of immigrants. It's just endemic to immigrants who look at the situation and say, it's easy to cheat, I get all the benefits, the costs are low, and they're not chasing me.
And at the end of the day, you get citizenship.
At the end of the day, you get citizenship.
What do you see as the solution?
I see as the solution twofold. Number one is Revenue Canada focusing on auditing these people. In 1996, they did a survey where they said, well, it's very difficult to do international audits, and there aren't assets in Canada to seize. Well, a lot has happened in the ensuing 21 years. We have tax treaties and exchange of information with places like Hong Kong and China and the United Arab Emirates. We have social media, we have whistleblowers, we have the ability to do lifestyle audits, but most importantly, we have very valuable assets. You can't move your condominium in Vancouver out overnight. So Revenue Canada now should really be focusing on changing their resources and really focusing on this group. If they do that, that will send a shock through this community where all of a sudden, just as they found out that Canada was an easy touch, they'll find out that this is going to be extraordinarily expensive. You will then have people who will make a choice. I'm either going to stay in Canada and suffer the brunt of full Canadian taxation, that's my price of doing that, or I'm going to pick up and leave. And that will probably be a large majority of people may pick up and leave and decide that it's not worth it. And that, again, puts that market from being red hot to being more affordable.
David Lesperance joining us from Windsor today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.